Hey nerds, Farmer Jesse here. Welcome to Growers Daily, your daily dose of ecological farming insight. It is Tuesday, September 23rd, 2025, and today we're talking about silage tarps, the good, bad, and ugly, because they are definitely a little bit ugly. What to do for water in wet climates where it's wet in the spring but dry in the summer, and how to pick your garlic seed. So let's do it. All right, everyone, welcome to Tilth Tuesday. Every Tuesday this year will be brought to you by our friends at Tilth Soil. If you're looking for compost or propagation mix, check out tilthsoil.com. A link will be in the show notes. I hope everyone had a nice Monday. We got rain, like actual rain. We got over an inch yesterday with more in the forecast for the next 2 days. If you're a cash crop in August, this news is perhaps a little, too little too late, but it's great news if you're a cover crop. I'm also hoping for another actual flush of peppers because they have just been chilling there for a while because I needed to use our irrigation for the lettuce and the like. Anyway, this place was in desperate need of some rain, getting a little bit too brown for my liking this early in the year, so I'm thrilled about that. Maybe the dang deer will stay away a little bit now that there's more moisture elsewhere than just in our gardens. Droughts always lead to my worst deer pressure, droughts and the fact that we grow stuff they can't get elsewhere. So maybe I should just start planting lettuce in the forest and see if that helps a little bit. Supply and demand and all that good stuff. Anyway, let's talk picking garlic seed. The first segment is going to assume you are starting from absolute scratch on your garlic patch, but there will also be plenty of relevant info in here on how to select for the bulbs that you want from your own garlic. Now, although if you order garlic seed from a seed catalog, some of it will succeed. If the conditions from which that seed came from do not match your own, you may lose significant quantities of that crop. I've told this story before, along with pretty much all of my stories at this point, I think, but a friend sent me some garlic from California that I planted here in Kentucky, and it was absolutely miserable here. Almost none of it survived, but what did survive, I've kept growing out, and although it is substantially behind my normal garlic, it's slowly catching up, getting bigger, getting more consistency. Our winters are just wetter and colder than they are in California, and I just needed to find the cloves that had the right genetic makeup to survive that and grow those out, slowly multiplying them year after year. Now, however, if you're spending $30 a pound on seed, you do not want to go through that seed development process because it can take many years to up your seed quantities. But if you're buying seed and you don't know where it came from, you are running that risk. So my recommendation is rather to go to the farmer's market and find the best looking garlic that you can. Talk to that grower about where they got their original seed stock, see if they have any seed quality garlic that they'd be willing to sell you, and ask if they've had any garlic disease issues. Because the one nice thing about purchasing seed is that, from a seed catalog or whatever, is that you can get it disease free. From a farmer's market, there's no guarantee on that necessarily. So talking to the farmers is going to be pretty important. And most farmers will be straightforward about that with you. But getting it locally, not from the store, because it can be irradiated to stop it from germinating, much like ginger for that example, and come from who knows where. But yes, getting it locally can mean it's already adapted to your conditions and is more likely to thrive. Also, make sure you're getting a hard neck or a soft neck, depending on what you want and where you are. I like hardneck garlics because they tend to do well here, but also because I like the garlic scape they put up in the spring. However, they don't grow that well too much further south than Kentucky. Like you can grow them maybe in like northern Tennessee, but as you get further and further south, these soft necks are your likely garlic because these are built more for southern climates. They don't need as much of that cold period as the hard necks do. However, soft necks have like a bazillion tiny cloves and they don't put up a scape, but they do perform better in the warmer regions. So for some of you, especially much further south of Kentucky, soft necks may be the best possible option and maybe the only option, with some exceptions, I'm sure. Now, for the cloves themselves, as you're popping the garlic, pick the best, biggest cloves that you can. Set all the other small cloves aside as seconds in case you need more or in case you want to plant some really close together for green garlic or garlic grass. But the bigger the clove, the bigger the resulting bulb. Generally speaking, it's pretty straightforward that way. I'll add to that, if the garlic bulb has damage somewhere, like a sunken or rotten clove, I will set that bulb aside. And if I can get away with not using it, I will. Sometimes a clove can get damaged in handling, like it's not necessarily a disease, but sometimes it is a disease, so my preference is to not use any of the cloves from that bulb if I can help it. And for me, that's pretty much the strategy. Nothing super complicated there, really. But I do think that sourcing factor can be quite important. I will also add to that just to grow a few different varieties if you can, especially when you're just starting out, just to see what works best for you and your conditions, your climate. Then be patient. It can take several years to expand your garlic seed enough to produce all that you need to regrow and also sell. And of course, there may be some regional seed suppliers who will be able to supply you with regional garlic seed from their own plots nearby in a similar region. That is also an option. Anyway, I hope that's helpful. Let me know what else you might add or say about garlic and picking garlic seed. Otherwise, we're going to take a quick break, and when we return, we will discuss managing water in a wet climate to be there when you need it, but gone when you don't need it. That'll make sense in a minute. BRB.
Farmer Claire Coleman here from the Winter Growers Podcast. Did you know that I also founded Real Farmer Care, a nonprofit that supports farmer well-being? From my own experiences farming, I knew firsthand that this type of support was missing from ag, so I decided to do something about it. As of today, there are over 500 farmer recipients of a $100 self-care award, with more applying daily. If you'd like to help, each $100 donated supports one new farmer. Visit realfarmercare.com to donate and learn more. Again, that's realfarmercare.com.
If you, the listener or viewer, are enjoying this podcast, getting even a small amount of value from it, consider supporting our work over at patreon.com/no-till-growers. I will try to get to questions from everywhere that questions come in, but I will always get to your Patreon questions. Now, today's Patreon question comes to us from Patreon member Fred, who writes, quote, in response to yesterday's episode about raised beds and whether they make sense for your climate. Obviously, that was not yesterday, but a few weeks back. I have a conundrum in that my area in Zone 9A is definitely experiencing a new normal. Our once very moderate climate has become more extreme with warm/hot, dry summers. This summer was record-breaking in both temperature and dryness, and cold/cold wet fall and early spring. My garden is at the top and on the sides on a gentle slope, less than 5 degrees, and I've pointed my beds a little downslope to help with drainage. But now I'm wondering, other than increasing soil organic matter, which isn't terrible at 3%, and I'm working on increasing it, how the heck do I get water to stay when it's dry but drain away when it's wet? I've got a sandy, clayey soil, 60% sand on the slope, less on the top. That springs a spring. In spring, water just starts seeping out of the ground in a couple spots and turns to concrete, hard, cracked dirt in summer. In the aisles anyway, my permanent beds are actually pretty nice. This year we had several heat and thirst waves and everything was water stress no matter how much I tried to water it, which had me pulling out Water for Every Farm. I'm assuming that means the book, and trying to find ideas, but I'm kind of stumped. I don't have room to put in a large meandering catchment ditch area pond, but I could put in some small mini swales or similar, end quote. Okay, thank you. And well, this sounds like I probably could have wrote it, except from a different zone. I too have a wet farm with beds turned slightly downhill to release excess water that I sometimes wish would keep the water at drought times better, because our thick clay soil likes to seize up and harden like pottery right after it was just being mushy. So structurally, in unpredictable but generally wet climates like these, there is only so much you can do with the form of the beds, meaning adding a swale or a catchment of some kind will not necessarily be the best thing, because like you said, in those wet times, the garden is really wet already, if not outright, like unworkable with nothing growing. So catchment can be a negative thing in some cases for large portions of the year. To me, it's always easier in a pinch to add water than remove it. So I have started to lean more in the direction of releasing the water in the spring and then just irrigating it back in during the droughts. This, of course, was a somewhat late realization for me. And at the bottom side of our sloped farm, I would like to have built, or will maybe in the future, build a small catchment pond from which I could pump the spring's excess back onto the farm in the summer. Again, to me, adding water back is going to be easier than removing it. So elevating those beds, allowing them to drain. Remember, we had something like 40 inches of rain by July here. And then irrigating it, remember we had something like 1.5 inches since those first 40 inches, back on makes the most sense to me. What that looks like will depend on one's budget and on one's land. It could be a catchment pond, but you said you don't really have room for something like that. What about a small well or a catchment tanks off the top of a high tunnel or some sort of building? Thinking more vertically in terms of water catchment up and down rather than laterally like a pond or swale that kind of go outward and take up a lot of space. It could be any number of things, but the issue with the swale or something similar is just that it will hydrate and store water where it is and in the soil, maybe when you don't need it. You kind of need the water in places you don't want it captured at other times of the year. Now, you will also find that as you grow, the soil will grow with you if you're treating it well. It will slowly grow in its ability to hold and release water, as you mentioned, but getting there can take some time. Also, I want to add that it sounds like managing the pathways better could help. It does not sound like you could use like wood chips or something like that because of the rainfall on the slope, unless you're only ever getting, light rainfalls wherever you are. So perhaps maybe something like straw, perhaps a winter-killed cover crop is a light mulch. Having something there to capture the water and hold the paths in place will help a lot. Obviously, I use the living pathways, and they do seem to make a difference in water retention, as counterintuitive as that seems. Plants do retain water pretty well. As always, I do not recommend those for everyone. So try the non-living pathway version first. Then if all else fails, you can trial some living pathways just to see if that doesn't help. So that's what I would say. Think about the pathway management and think about, can you add a tank to a tunnel or a building or something? Can you dig a small well nearby? Maybe others have ideas or thoughts that they can share, and we can tackle those on Friday. Otherwise, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, Silage Tarps, what gives? Be right back.
What's up, Farmer Jesse? Today I'm just sending in my fall to winter garden here. So we've got some lettuce and some broccoli, some cauliflower and a couple more lettuce. We've got some fall peas coming up into some Cherokee purple tomatoes. Got some bok choy and a radish and a dying ground cherry and a last little collard greens and lettuce patch.
Today's episode of Growers Daily is brought to you by Farmhand. Farmhand is the virtual assistant built for farmers, helping CSAs scale sales, run error-free fulfillment, and deliver 5-star service. Whether you're at 100 members or 1,000, Farmhand helps you grow without burning out. You've heard us and our farmers right here on Growers Daily. Explore farmer wins and learn more at farmhand.partners/no-till. That's farmhand.partners/no-till. All right, back to the show. All right, so we got this question from Garava108 not that long ago that I thought would make a good segment. They wrote, quote, "Hello, Jesse, love today's live." Obviously, this comment was from a few weeks back, but thank you. And we will do another live next Wednesday, I think. So be on the lookout for that. Anyway, they go on. Question for you. Have you done an episode on silage tarps? If so, when? And if not, I'd love to understand them better. Why get one? Uses? How long they last? I know Farmer's Friend has them. Any other good vendors? End quote. Okay, so great question, and probably one I should have tackled by now. As I often point out, market gardening has a near endless supply of topics, enough to sustain a daily show, which is wild. Anyway, no, I don't think I've done a specific silage tarp segment or show yet. So let's just kind of bust that out now, and then you all can let me know what other questions you have about them. To start, obviously, silage tarps are giant sheets of plastic, and I think we should all be looking for alternative methods and options, and there is some limit to how much I will endorse the use of silage tarps for sure, increasingly so as we continue to see the effects of microplastics on ourselves and on our planet and soils. Now, with that caveat out of the way, they can be really effective at starting and sometimes reclaiming garden sites because they get things like weed seeds to germinate, or they warm the soil enough for perennial weeds to grow, and then the tarps suffocate them. They can also be used white side up in the summer to germinate crops like carrots. Tarps can be used to spark flushes of weeds to speed up the stale seed bedding process. Killing cover crops is another area where they excel, where in the spring you can crimp rye, throw a tarp over top, and then allow that to finish off the job in a few weeks or less. Indeed, tarps have a lot of utility, though again, we should also always, all of us, be looking for ways to move beyond them. This is especially true because you asked about longevity. Even if they are UV treated like good silage tarps, you're looking at 6 to 8 years tops that they will probably function at their peak, or probably 5 years at their peak with, like a few more years after that. I have some very old tarps at this point that are basically like living out their lives covering compost piles, and others that are just sitting there being plastic and, snake habitat, which I guess is good in my case, but may not be in yours. It is my plan right now to not buy any more tarps for that reason. 8 years seems like a long time until you farm for that long and you can remember when you got the tarps and they are no longer hanging in there and they're brittle and they're ripping easily. So the sun, the weather, they will all just wear them down eventually. As for where to find them, indeed, we've bought them from a few places, but Farmer's Friend is, where we bought the last 2 times. And I like that company because they think like growers. They size their tarps a few feet long because you'll need a little extra space on the ends. to get it all the way over those beds. Those little details are important. That said, we have also gotten some 6 mil silage tarps from, I think it was like Tractor Supply or a Tractor Supply company many years ago. That's literally what silage tarps are made for, wrapping corn silage, so you can find them at Tractor Supply companies. We've also got them in the past from farmers who just wanted to get rid of them. Some of the thicker, like woven ones. They can be quite heavy though, especially those woven ones. So don't buy the biggest tarp in the world, or if you do, just expect to have to cut it down. A 50 by 50 foot tarp, especially when wet or muddy, is pretty good chore on its own. 100 foot by 50 foot is pretty much just a 2-person job. That's really hard to do on your own. In fact, I used to drive our truck out to the garden plots and then pull it with that just to make it more efficient. Again, I think we should all be moving away from these tarps in general, but the better alternatives are slow in coming. Tarps can be a bit of a crutch as well, which guilty, meaning maybe you like slack off in your crop planting or bed prep or whatever because, oh well, I'll just tarp it if it doesn't go well. But that creates a reliance on the tarping that I think keeps us all buying these giant tarps without considering they will just end up in the landfill. The best alternative is mulch, but even those, like compost, are coming with their risks, and specifically with plastics. We just overall need better options and less waste kicking around in the environment, and we need to ban things like persistent herbicides and one-time plastic uses. It's just not necessary. Otherwise, I think that's probably about all there is to say about tarps, except that you will also need some way to weight them down, like UV-treated sandbags. I use posts. Those kind of rip holes in them. There's not the best idea, but that's what we use because it gives those posts a use when they're not holding up our tomatoes. Also, don't just buy any old tarp. It has to be UV resistant or it will degrade rapidly in the sun faster than they already do, which would be even worse on the microplastics front. Anyway, I think that's really it on what I can say about tarps and tarping. Let me know your thoughts or what you would add, and we can get back to that on Friday. Otherwise, I think we are done with this Tilth Tuesday. But before we go, we're going to get a quick word from our friends at Rimmel Greenhouse Systems. Whether you're growing tomatoes for market, flowers in the spring, or vegetables for your family, growing in a high tunnel protected from the weather provides the right environment for a harvest that you can count on. Rimmel Greenhouses are strong, durable, and easy to assemble, offering the quality you need to grow productively year-round. The team of experts at Rimmel Greenhouse Systems will be your trusted partners to ensure you get exceptional value from your greenhouse or high tunnel investment. Visit Rimmel.com today to get growing. Don't forget, No Till Growers is now officially a nonprofit 501c3, so donations are tax deductible and greatly appreciated. Please make sure to like and subscribe and or follow wherever you're getting this podcast. That's an easy way to help us out as well. Enormous thank you to all of our show sponsors. And if you'd ever like to sponsor the show, you can reach out to Farmer Michelle at notillgrowers.com. Huge shouts to Willie Breeding for the theme music and Mike Hilbert for the production help and editing. And also, we still got like a week left in September. So if you want to send in your theme song covers, do that to farmermike at notillgrowers.com. Also, shouts to Epidemic Sound for the background music that you can hear. Pick up a hat or a copy of my book, The Living Soil Handbook, at notillgrowers.com to support our work. That just helps us to keep this thing free and open to the public. Big thank you to everyone over at patreon.com/notillgrowers, where at a certain level, or if you just bump up from one level to another, or you sign up in the month of September, you get a shout out on the show. So big shout outs to day 2. It's a big list. This is our pollinators. We have Sue Rowland, Thomas Van Wart, Tyler Lloyd, Andrea Front, Tobias Deerdorf, Toss Men, Cedric Reed, Bill Price, William Wiley Madrow, Wish I Started 20 Years Ago, Dwight Yoder, Lynn Tompkins, Steve Hurlbut, Rebecca S., Lee Shelley, Brian McCarthy, Larry Shepard, Martian Cindy, DP, Kat Brannigan, Little Row Farms, Hank Zecca, Ashley Sharp, Jill Crosby, Madison, Scott Roser, Norska Guard Farm, Laura Britton, Alberto Diaz, Peter Broad, Jason Ruel, Earth Care Farmer Jane Murner, Derek Page, Meredith Light of Granite Springs Farm, Grown Up Farm, Bob and Ann Patton of Hexhamshire Organics, Jared Kirst of Rivendell Farms, Fiona and Donnie of Firefly Farms, and Jen Lawrence. Big shouts to our pollinators for keeping this story rolling along. So you will remember that our farmer, Susie, is trapped in her barn with a giant wild boar staring her down. The trouble is, if she runs, the boar will chase her. And if she doesn't run, the boar will also chase her. There is nothing nearby to grab to help defend herself, and moreover, it's a boar. They do not exactly, have sensitive skin. A wild boar is nothing you want to get tangled up with, and definitely nothing you want to corner. In an ideal world, they both just walk out of there, but that doesn't happen. Suddenly, the boar charges. Susie's fight or flight, kicks in and chooses flight. But as she turns around and tries to run, she trips right over a 5-gallon bucket, knocking some woven wire fencing down in the path of the boar. And suddenly, the boar gets tangled in the fencing, and Susie gets wrapped up a little bit in the fencing, and she feels something just pop in her knee. And then she knows when she goes down that she is in immense pain, and she is not going to be able to move. And when she looks up, she can see that the boar is now wrapped in the fence somehow, like kind of stuck, and it's, jerking around, but it is clearly deeply stuck in that fencing. So she is stuck on the ground. The boar is wrapped in the fence between her and her exit. So what happens next? Well, that is for tomorrow, provided we get more Patreon signups on Life Ain't a Bore. That's a terrible title. Thanks for listening or watching. We'll see you then. Bye.